Amanda Heath is a visual artist and the founder of three successful six-figure businesses, and she empowers action-oriented artists with the skills, knowledge, and the confidence needed to build a sustainable and profitable art business. Now, whether you're a visual artist or not, I'm sure you're going to learn something that you can apply to your own aspirations and your own form of creativity. So, Amanda, welcome to The Inspired Life.
Hi, Bob. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Lovely to see you again.
Yeah, but I know, yeah, we've connected before, and so I knew you'd be the perfect guest. So the title of this interview series is The Inspired Life. So when we ask you, Amanda, do you feel that you live an inspired life?
Definitely, without a doubt. I'm very, very blessed. I've always been very conscious to actually create and design the kind of life I wanted to live. So yeah, absolutely. I feel very, very, like I said, blessed that it is a really inspired life for sure.
That's great. There are many ways that you do that, and we're gonna dive deep into those as we go along here. So let's establish that maybe people can tell by the accent. You are from the UK. You're in a town called Cornwall, right? And where is that located in the country?
Yeah, so the county is called Cornwall. Now, originally, for those of you that have got a very good ear for accents, I'm from the north of England, and I relocated down to the very, very south, closer to the beaches, where it's a little bit warmer. Brilliant art community, and that is a county called Cornwall. Yeah.
Awesome. Let me ask you first, in that introduction, and I guess grab this from your website, it said that you have you're the founder of three successful six-figure businesses. And I'm just curious, are those all currently running? Are some of those in the past? Or well, could you just briefly explain what those three businesses are or were?
Yeah, absolutely. So no, there's only one currently running. So my first one was in 2005, just after I'd done a master's degree in business, and I really got the bug to start my own business. So that was a retail business. So I was selling actual products. The second business was 2010 to 2021, I think it was. And that was a series of Pilates and yoga studios, because originally I trained as a dancer. And in 2021, I sold that one and decided now was the time to definitely focus on building an art business. And that art business now has crossed the seven-figure mark. So yeah,
wow.
really.
Because I love to have people on here who are thriving in their zone of genius. And so I was just going to get an idea of, how well you're doing these days. So seven figures in total in recent years.
Yeah, so it's not profit, that's turnover. And I always want to be very clear about that, because I think a lot of people, when they see these figures branded around, assume that that's all profit that, you take home. And obviously there are expenses out of that.
Oh, right.
But yeah, seven figures turnover in just under 3 years. So,
and all of those things are art related. That is pretty amazing. So we're going to find out. We're going to dive into the details of that. But I want to know a little bit about your origin story. You mentioned that you started off as a dancer. You mentioned this Pilates studio. You obviously have a kind of a history of being entrepreneurial or business minded, which I think is going to play a key role in your story. But just tell me a little bit about your creative journey. You went from dancer and when did art come into play? And I'd love to know a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I went away at the age of 11 to train professionally as a dancer, and used to draw and paint a lot. When we were in rehearsals, I would always sit and sketch and draw, and absolutely loved it. And obviously then went on to become a professional dancer. And when that career stopped, so did my art, because we've all heard the narrative, a starving artist, and it's impossible to make a living from your art. So I pushed that to one side, thinking, okay, I need to get a proper job, one that will bring in money and, do the sensible thing, which I think a lot of people probably resonate with. And it was later in life, after having a series of businesses, as I mentioned, and just feeling like something was missing, that I decided enough was enough. I really needed to just make a go of an art business. And I thought to myself, look, you've built two very successful businesses so far. If anybody can make this work, then surely you've got a really good go at it. So I sold the business and decided to go all in.
So let's talk about that. And we get it externally and internally. Like, yeah, you mentioned you can't make money with art. What are you serious? You need to, and so you bought into that. How much of that was external or people telling you that? And how much was that just the voices in your head having the doubt and the uncertainty surrounding that?
Yeah, do you know what? That's a really good question. And I've never really broken it down into those categories before. I think a lot of it started externally for sure. And it just, back 20 years ago, it was kind of common knowledge that artist staff, they didn't have any money. You had to eat beans on toast and drink water if you were going to do your art. So you sacrificed a lot. And I internalized that for sure. And also, I think with not going to art college, I did my art A level, which is probably different to the qualifications over there in the US, but I didn't then go on to do a degree in art. And so deep down somewhere, there was imposter syndrome. Am I good enough? Can I really do this without formal qualifications behind me? And that really held me back for a long time.
A lot of people suffer from this where they feel they need to have the credentials, they need to have some sort of an external source of validation. Is it safe to say that in the long run, you found out that the things you're doing today didn't necessarily, I mean, education is really helpful. We'll talk about mentorship. I know that we have some similar views on getting advice, not doing this completely alone in a vacuum. But don't you think people hold themselves back thinking they need these letters behind their degrees or whatever before they can pursue their passions?
Absolutely. And I still get that today in my own student community. People saying, can I charge this because I don't have a degree? Can I charge this because I'm not represented by a gallery? And so all of these shoulds that are around us day to day really hold us back. And actually, if we break them down and look at them and say, well, why should I not be able to take a different route? And so it's just sad that those beliefs are still around. So it's definitely a mission of mine to break them down one at a time.
Good. Yeah, it's been a long time mission of mine. I mean, I've been doing this stuff, mentoring musicians and creative people since the 90s for like 30 years. And that was the early battle that it's still rages on today, is that getting over that starving artist mentality, or the woe is me because I'm in a creative field. Let's just talk about your art, because when you first made this leap, you weren't teaching business tactics. It was promoting and selling your own artwork. And so, how would you describe your style? Like, what medium do you use? Did you have sort of a niche or niche in the art world?
So in the early days, definitely not. My style or niche was all over the place. I painted everything from portraits to abstracts to flowers, like every kind of relatively new artist does, just trying to explore styles. But what I did find was when I posted them and talked about them, they sold pretty quickly. And I was like, why am I doing this other job that I don't enjoy as much anymore, when actually this fills me with absolute joy and the artwork is selling? So over the years it's developed. I now would describe it as expressionist abstracts, but I try to bring in the figure as well quite often. And I think back to the dancing days, I'm really fascinated by form, particularly female form, and then bringing that in a quite abstract way. So
two things that you said there that stood out for me. One is, I think there's a lot of pressure. People hear about branding yourself and having a niche and focusing on one thing. But I think that advice really depends like where you are in the evolution of your career. So early on, I think putting too much pressure on yourself to have a brand identity doesn't really serve you. I think you have to play and experiment until you find your voice, and then find that connection between what you enjoy doing and what people are willing to pay for, what's getting a attention. So I know you have a community and a membership site, which we'll talk about in a minute, for artists. Is that advice that you give them too in the early stages?
it is, absolutely. And I've got different programs that are suitable for different stages. And I think if somebody is still finding their voice, really enjoy that stage. And like you said, play, explore different mediums, listen to that internal narrative. What am I really enjoying? What's kind of frustrating me or boring me? And those answers, if we look internally, guide us towards our unique voice and style. So yeah, absolutely. In the early days, play, use different materials, explore different subjects, and really find out what you are drawn to, for
Right.
sure.
Part of your bio, and I think you alluded to this a little bit, in those years when you were going to get a real job because you didn't think you could support yourself with art. Apparently you worked for several years at a university. You were helping academics. Could you tell me just a little bit about those roles that you played?
Yeah, so absolutely I did. I was working at university, and basically, in order to get a promotion, they said I had to have a degree, which I didn't have because of my dance training. So I said, well, if you give me the promotion, I will go back and do a degree retrospectively. So they agreed to that, and I did a master's degree in business, which I absolutely loved. And at that time, I was working in the enterprise department of the university. So I was helping raise funding for business ideas and working with academics with amazing ideas to take out into industry. And I was basically acting as a conduit for their ideas to determine which ones could make it to market and would potentially secure funding and which ones wouldn't. And I had to convert it from academic speak, so to speak, into business plans that were easy to understand and could gain funding for the university.
Cool. So I'm going to relate something that happened with me, and I have a feeling this is going to dovetail with your experience there. So there was like a 4 or 5 year period, like 20 years ago. Like last day job I had was 2004. So as we record this, that was 20. I was celebrating 20 years completely self-employed. So, but I worked in the corporate world and I worked for internal communications. So this was like late 90s, early 2000s. And so I was still, I'm an author. I've been a writer for many years. So I was home. I was still using my craft, of writing. They would take me to trainings. Like there was this new thing called the internet. I remember going to these classes that they would pay for and send me to learn about the web and web design and how to write for the web. And I was simultaneously building my business online, getting the word out about my books, which led to me being able to put in my notice. So my day job, while I knew that I wasn't ever going to be like comfortable working there, it actually kind of fueled my self-employment dreams. So I have a feeling since you were involved in business and you even said that you loved it, that's got to have influenced or helped you as you pursued your art career. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I loved business. I loved learning about business and I loved helping other people with their businesses. And then obviously I got to the end of my degree and I was still helping, other academics with their ideas. And it was just an itch that was getting more and more prevalent to set up my own business. And for sure, that education and experience definitely helped me get to where I am today. But even more so than that, and I'm sure you can relate to this, it's all the trial and error as you go through business that really cements and catapults you forward. You can have the theory and that's great, but there's nothing quite like in-person first-hand experience.
Oh, yeah.
And making mistakes.
Why do you think that is that you embrace this business thing when so many creatives, I have a feeling there are people in your communities who have this resistance to treating their art like a business. And I get that. I mean, that idea for a creative is like, oh, I don't want to treat it like a business. That's why I always teach when I've taught marketing over the years, it's like bring your creativity to your marketing and your promotions.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be bland and boring, but a lot of people are resistant to it. What is it about you and other people that embrace it? What causes people to be resistant?
Oh, that's a really good question. And I think some people just have this mindset that if they are creative, again, it's one of those mistaken beliefs. If they're creative, it's very, one side of the brain. And if they're business minded, it's the other side of the brain. But actually, I disagree in some respects. And that is, in order to be good at business, you do have to be creative. And so like you, I always say to the students, if you approach your business with the same play and the curiosity and fun and expansiveness that you approach your art with, then, it's a completely different journey. And the two can really complement each other and go hand in hand when you approach it in that manner.
Well, it's really amazing to me that you and we've connected like in the past year. What you just said there is echoing exactly what my philosophy and what I've been preaching for decades, about, this whole thing, I got to put on a different hat now to do marketing. I mean, there's certain aspects, really analytical things, like when it comes to contracts, doing your taxes, you don't really want to be creative in those realms. You want to get somebody who kind of knows the nitty gritty details, but everything else, Yeah, the marketing, how you craft your marketing and what you're sharing on social media, that can like be a reflection of your personality. You can be playful with that, you know?
Absolutely. And it's
Yeah.
sharing about your creative process and what you love, what you're having fun with, what's inspiring you. That is your marketing. It's just
Mhm.
bringing people in on the journey. And I think a lot of artists feel like they suddenly have to change persona and go into a salesperson mode. And it's not, it's just bringing potential collectors along the journey of your creativity so that they feel involved.
Yeah. So you mentioned mindset, but do you have any like mindset practices? You know, I'm known for my affirmations on my YouTube channel. And affirmations are one of many tools that you can use. But what are things that you do, or do you have any ongoing things that you do to kind of improve your outlook, your attitude, your mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you, I love affirmations and I love your affirmations and the videos on YouTube for sure.
Thanks.
Um, but I also love visualization.
Mm.
So 5, 10 minutes of sitting down and getting crystal clear in my mind's eye of what I want the day to look like, or something that I'm trying to bring into reality, and visualizing it really clearly, and then also bringing up the feeling associated with that. I love doing that because it just feels like playing with magic. And also, if I feel like I'm in a bit of an energetic funk, which happens obviously quite often and just like normal, it's doing things to shift that. You quite often kind of having a bit of a dance around or going for a walk or things like that, just to keep an eye on the energy and make sure it's where I need it to be.
Yeah, it's so important. Yeah, and it was actually being in a funk myself that led to me doing affirmations on YouTube. So I was kind of needing to lift my own vibration. Got kind of felt like I lost my mojo. I was seeking things out on YouTube. Like affirmations and guided meditations, and not really happy with what I was finding. This was like 7 years ago, and I said, "Hey, I know my way around a microphone. I have a decent voice. Let me just put something out there and see if anybody likes it." I had no idea if it would go anywhere. But lo and behold, here we are,
Oh,
seven
it's been
years later.
phenomenal for you, hasn't it? Huge.
Yeah, close to 400,000 subscribers, and just thousands of people that queue up my voice every morning now, all over the world. And so you never know. And sometimes that's where business ideas come from. You're seeking something, can't find it, so you create it yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, 100%. And that's
Yeah.
the best in the market, isn't it? Because if you need it, the chances are there are lots of other people out
Right.
there that need it as well.
So I'm on the verge of asking you. I want to talk to you about your multiple sources or streams of income. You have a lot of them, and we're going to get into some detail about that. But first, I just have a quick message about something that I'm up to, kind of along the lines of the topic of this particular show. And let's play that for you, and then we'll be right back to continue our conversation with Amanda Heath. Do you think of yourself as a creative entrepreneur or a heart-centered business person? Perhaps you're a musician, author, artist, or performer. Or maybe you're a coach, teacher, or energy worker. Or you just have an inspired message you want to share with more people. If this describes you, I invite you to join the Magnetize Your Tribe community. This is where you'll learn how to attract perfect, soul-aligned fans and paying customers without feeling spammy, boastful, or overwhelmed. I'll share the principles that allowed me to grow my YouTube channel to hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and the lessons I've learned from publishing 16 books, attracting a sizable online following, and being self-employed for the past 20 years. Just visit bobbakerinspiration.com/heart, and it's free to join. That's bobbakerinspiration.com/HEART. All right, let's continue our conversation by talking about your current multiple streams of income. Now, I'm basing this, I just visited your website, which we're going to plug it at the end, but let's say, but amandaheathart.com is like your main site, which takes people to the where your art is available. But there's a little button up there that says for artists, and then I went to that page to get this information. What I'm seeing is you have 4 things that you seem to be offering at different price points. You have a freebie too, a free video training, but the paid offerings, which are the multiple streams of income, is kind of a lower priced workbook about how to build a profitable art business. There's an Instagram workshop. You got a passion into profit And then there's an artist amplify. Can we like just break those down? Is that accurate for
It's
offerings?
almost accurate because I'm just replacing the second one. So instead of the Instagram workshop, that's going to be replaced by something else. But I'll chat about that in just a
Oh,
second.
all
We'll
right.
break.
Sounds like a sound strategy to have things at different price points for different people depending on where they're at. Is that's a conscious decision, I'm assuming, on your part to offer those
It
different
is
levels?
definitely, yeah. So in the early days, I started off and I was just going to offer a quick 6-week business course for artists because, I loved the business side of things, but I also loved creating. And I thought, well, actually, this may help people. And it very quickly grew. So I needed different offerings. So yes, at the very start, a very accessible £27 as an ebook on how to build a profitable art business. And that covers step by step exactly what it takes to build a successful business. So I think a lot of people are under the impression that there are these quick fixes and magic pills because that's what we're sold often on social media. And I'm very keen to make sure people understand that building a good business on strong foundations takes work and it takes time. And so that ebook is to really introduce people to how I work and my methodologies, and also explain to them step by step exactly what they need to do in case they're very self-led and they're like, fantastic, I'm going to follow this step by step and I'm going to go it alone. That's the first
Yeah.
offer.
Do you want to say what's going to replace the Instagram workshop? Or?
So the Instagram workshop is the second tier, so to speak. So instead of that now, I have a smaller version of my signature program. So that program is the second one, the second tier is an 8-week mini course. And it is to help artists who haven't yet made any sales just get their foot on the ladder and start putting the foundations in place and learn how to sell their first £500 or £1,000 worth or dollars of art. So it's the really beginning stages and helping them build their confidence and earn some money back so that they can trust and earn and invest in themselves further.
But that's a self-guided thing, right? There's no interaction with your community in that one.
In fact, I've just done the beta round of it because that's
Okay.
why it's not live. Because I always test things first to make sure I've refined them. So that's an 8-week program. Every 2 weeks, the students submit questions and I do a pre-recorded call answering all the questions. So there's a little bit of contact, but nothing live. So that's the Tier 2. Tier 3 is the signature program, which is Passion into Profit. And that is really the gold standard. It is everything to do with building a business, from branding to photography to pricing to your e-com website to email list building, marketing and passive income streams, and then the sales funnels that can automate a lot of that. So yeah, that's a fantastic program. And the last one is the high ticket program, and that is for artists who are already established. They're selling through galleries or they're doing art shows. And what they're finding is it's either feast or famine. So they make a lot of sales at an art show and then nothing in between. Or they're represented by galleries and they're working a prolific amount and they're handing over 50% of the profit, which is completely justifiable for the galleries. They're working hard, they deserve that. But I wanted to enable artists to also build their own income stream that underpins that so that they can choose which galleries they want to work with and they have this other layer of passive income coming into their business so that they can scale internationally.
And different people have different philosophies about this. Some entrepreneurs like offering a wide array of things that give people choices. Some people believe that just having a core thing that you're promoting, like staying highly focused on it, is most beneficial. Have you found, though, this approach of having 4 things has been good for your business?
Yeah, because I started off initially thinking, yeah, it's just one income stream, stay focused, do that. It's going to be easier all round and the messaging will be clear. And what happened is, as it started to grow, then I realized I needed a second program for the students that were doing really, really well in Passion into Profit and needed to go further and bigger. So I needed a container for them, and I couldn't include that in the main one because it was too confusing for people at a more beginner level. And also the more introductory level programs, not everybody has the money that the signature program cost to invest in themselves readily available. So what I wanted to do is give them a way of dipping their toe in, earning some money, learning how I work. Because, I'm not for everybody. I'll resonate with some people and not others, and that's fine. But it was a smaller offering for them to build their confidence and to earn and be able to figure it out before taking the plunge into a bigger program and a higher investment.
It makes sense. So would you consider the passion into profit? Is that your like signature? Like, is that the main one? Or
yeah, that's the one that started as a 6-week program and just grew exponentially. And that has a community, a really active community, and monthly live calls. And yeah, it just breaks everything down. It's like taking somebody by the hand and walking them through step by step how to build a profitable business.
Yeah. Is it an ongoing membership, or is it like a so many month program, or how's it structured?
So it's a 6-month program. So you can come in and start at any time as long as the doors are open. Then you get 6 months support with me and my team. And at the end of the 6 months, you get lifetime access to all of the material, including any upgrades I make, because I do go back in and make it better and better all the time. And but it's just the 6 months support that ends. But there is an option to extend that. The materials you get for life.
But I like what you said earlier. A lot of people who look at successful people, they think, oh, they got it all figured out. They're really savvy. But really, we're all just like figuring things out as we go along. And even though there were other people before you who had art programs online, you still had to find your way. And so you just start off like, here's an idea. Let's put this out there. I'm going to try this passion into profit thing. Through interacting with your students, you realize, oh, some of these people need more advanced help. Okay, now I'm going to offer this thing. But you wouldn't even have known that until you got out there and started offering the initial thing. And then you realize there's also people at a lower level, so let's get a lower price thing. So it's like from doing, your way is revealed. Right?
It is, yeah. Just taking one step at a time, because there's no way I could have sat down 3 years ago and said, this is how the business is going to pan out. There's just no way. So it's just taking one step at a time, seeing what happens, looking at the data, looking at what people need, and then, choosing your direction off the back of that. And something that you just said a second ago about, there are other people out there already, and I still started. I think that is such an important message, because quite often people think, oh, there's already somebody out there who does this style of art, and there's already somebody out there who provides workshops on this topic. And it doesn't matter, because they're not you. And certain people will resonate with them and want to learn from them or buy from them, and others won't, and they'll want to buy from or learn from you. And so don't ever stop yourself just because somebody's already done it, because you can do it your way and still make a huge difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nobody brings the unique set of experiences and personality that you do. Words of wisdom there. At the I think it was at the bottom of what your website page is. It references the Thriving Artist Business School. I know it was a logo, but is that just like an umbrella term for everything that you offer? That's not like a separate offering, is it?
No, it's an umbrella term for the whole side of the business that is to do with courses and workshops. So the ebook, the 4 different programs all fall under Thriving Artist Business School, or TABS. And then my own art side of the business is separate.
I just got to, some of those pages were turning into tabs. I just realized that's an acronym for Thriving Artist Business School.
Yeah,
okay.
I made that clearer, because somebody who'd been following me for ages said, Amanda, can I ask you, what does TABS mean?
Yeah.
And I thought it was so obvious, but obviously not.
I thought it was like a new tab that you were opening on the website or something, like you would on a browser. So I know that we had a private conversation, I don't know, like last year, just to get to know each other. And you had mentioned about this thing about raising your rates, which I want to talk about that, because I think, again, even if somebody's watching, they're not wanting to build an art career, they're in some other field, this applies. So I know you started off lower and you had to build your confidence to continuously raise your rates, because your prices, especially for the 2 higher tiered things, are probably more than you did when you first started. Certainly, talk a little bit about like the psychology of that, the what you struggled with and went through to get to that point of charging what you're worth.
So I think, like everybody else, you start off thinking, I'm going to price it as affordable as I can possibly make it, then more people will come in. And actually, that is fine, but naturally, as human beings, when we see a price on something, we associate its quality, whether we like it or not. And for certainly a good few months, I was underpricing both my art and the business courses side of things, trying to help other people and make it affordable. And what I found happened was I was running around like a, headless chicken. I don't know if that's a phrase in the US.
It is, yeah.
And I was trying to give as much value as possible and literally burning out. And the more I gave, sometimes it was a bit of a double-edged sword, the more people expected. And so I just had to revise what I was offering, who I was speaking to, and then thought, actually, Amanda, your students are getting phenomenal results. And this artwork, although you haven't been to our university and done a degree, is still very valuable. And so I just slowly crept up the prices, and each time felt more and more comfortable, because there was a conversation I overheard once between two business owners, and one person was considering closing their business, and the other person said, well, if you're going to close it, how about raising your prices, doubling them, tripling them? Because how would you feel working in that business if you earned that much? Would you feel better about it? And they were like, yeah, actually, I wouldn't resent it as much. I'd really enjoy it because I'd feel like I was getting paid what I was worth, and then I'd want to do more. And so they did that. They got, more clients. They really enjoyed the job. And I thought that's quite a valuable lesson in life to learn, that if you undersell yourself and give too much, then actually you can affect the enjoyment of it. And actually, if you price at what you're worth, then the exchange becomes more equal.
I love that. Because, yeah, you're right. A lot of people say, oh, I just want to make my stuff accessible. I want to get as many people as possible. Yeah, I remember a guy years ago said, and I rarely get complaints, but he was complaining about the cost of my music marketing books. And he said, if you cut your prices in half, you get twice as many sales. And I went, that's not really true.
No, and also, cause it's just as difficult to reach 10 customers at $3 as it is to reach 10 customers at $30. But primarily, it's probably not as profitable at that lower end. So you're squeezing the margins all the time and busting a gut trying to deliver. And actually, it's like, we shouldn't ever, as artists or as creators, I don't think we should ever go on that price war where we're trying to mark things down and down, and compete on lowest prices.
I have had a business model that's been pretty consistent, even from the earliest days in the 90s when I got online, like just promoting my music marketing books. As I've said over the years many times, that I think I freely give away probably like 80 or more % of everything that I create, in like articles, blog posts, podcasts, YouTube videos. Certainly with my affirmations on YouTube, everything's just available for free. However, if you want a little more in-depth interaction with me, then or a course that I go in depth, then there's going to be a price for that. So I never lose sleep thinking that I'm hoarding everything to myself, because most of it I give away. I think there's a balance to be found where you can still sleep well at night and then charge.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm the same. I've got loads on Instagram, loads on YouTube, more so on Instagram, free Facebook group for people to come in and engage. But it's only in the creative industries where people expect you to do things for free because you enjoy it. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. You never invite a plumber come over and go, hey, I can give you some exposure. If you come over and work on my pipes, it's that's it.
Or go to the supermarket and say, can I pay you, once I've eaten the food? Or it's like, why do people do it with creatives? Yeah.
It is a unique thing. So we were talking about the stuff that we freely give away. I want to talk about like how our recent marketing strategy, like how do you attract your ideal followers? I guess we can apply it to your artwork, but maybe you're probably focused a lot these days on the passion into profit things. So what are you doing online? You mentioned Instagram to attract those ideal people and convert them over into students.
Yeah, so actually it's the other way around with my businesses. The courses side of things grew so much that I had to take a team on. I've got a brilliant team in place now so that I can now pull back and spend a bit more time on my art. So it's happened that way round for me. And I have like sales funnels or systems for bringing people in on both sides of the business. So On the courses side of things, the main way is I have a free workshop that breaks down exactly how I automate a lot of my sales and marketing, because as a single mom and as somebody who really values freedom, what I didn't want with my art business was to spend all of my time on sales and marketing and not have any time in the studio. So I've got systems that can automate a lot of that for you and still bring in a fantastic passive income stream. And then you can layer on top of that with sales of originals and things. So I have a workshop that breaks all of that down and shows people why that is such a successful way of doing things, the benefits it brings, and why the traditional methods don't work as well. So people watch that workshop and they either love it and want to work with me, or it's not the right time and they join my free community, or, they go away and I'm not the person for them, which is fine. And on the art side of things, I do Facebook ads. So I refined my funnel organically, with free traffic first to make sure it worked. And now I do ads and I bring them in to like an entry level product on my website, which is prints, and have a very special incentive for them to buy a print, come into my world, and then I can nurture them. And a lot of them go on to make repeat purchases or higher value purchases.
Yeah, I guess we didn't even talk about the multiple streams of income as an artist specifically, but I guess there's a hierarchy there. So the print is usually like the low end maybe. Yeah, then there's buying originals, because I've dabbled. I don't know if I think I shared with you some of my art. I've actually a pretty decent acrylic artist, but I don't put a lot of energy into it. So, but I'm familiar with that world. So there's prints, there's originals that people will buy, and then there's commission pieces, there's murals, there's So I mean that's just the things that I'm aware of.
Yeah, so everybody's business is going to look completely different because of their personality, the way they want to work, etc. And so it should. There's nothing worse than everybody's business looking identical. For example, if you want to travel the world and paint, then you're going to need to rely on passive income. So what I always suggest to the artist is building several streams of income, but focus on one primarily that's going to bring in that kind of baseline. And for most artists, although not all, that is prints, because for your customer, if they're scrolling Facebook or Instagram or wherever, and they are wowed by this stunning image and they click on it and they can go through to your website and see the prints are within their reach financially, they're more likely to say yes and take action. And then they're on your email list, they've made a purchase. When you stay in touch with them and they're wowed by the quality and they love the print and the service and the delivery, quite often, as I said, then they can go on to buy an original or commission a piece, or, lots of opportunities can come from that. But the actual passive print sales side of things ticks over day and night without you getting involved. I don't touch any prints at all. I don't handle them. And that brings in a really lovely base income stream that covers all of my costs and some more.
Yeah, even though I haven't touched a brush in a few years, I was pretty active many periods of my life, and I put a lot of my stuff on a website called Fine Art America, which is like a print on demand. People can get your artwork printed on anything, not only just like stretch canvas or prints, but what phone cases and mouse pads and coffee mugs and all this stuff. And I don't promote it at all, but I think every month somebody orders something. A few bucks that I get direct deposited. It's passive. If I was more serious about it, I could up that. I'm choosing not to. But it showed me that, there's definitely passive ways to.
Absolutely. It's just building those income streams and layering them together, because if you just rely on art shows, it can be really time and labor intensive. And like I said, it's feast and famine. If you rely on galleries, you kind of sat back quite passively hoping that they sell for you. So for me, I like a layered approach where I've got a really strong passive income stream that ticks over every single week, and then layering that with sales of originals or in-person shows, and the whole blend, the whole ecosystem works really well.
It seems I've never really pursued the gallery thing, but it seems like going that gallery route is almost like pursuing a book deal or getting a record deal as a musician. It's like you have to get the approval of the big, well-known entity. And I always hated playing that game and like getting the rejection letters and all that. So I would probably be more prone to like creating my own event. I've done this with another thing. I haven't done this with art, but I just find a venue. Hey, I want to create an art party here. You got some walls here. I'll get together five artist friends, and we'll come and display our stuff. We'll have an opening party. We'll bring in a musician. Yeah, if you can get into the galleries, great, and that ups your prestige or whatever. But you can create your own events too.
You can, and I love that about you. It's just seize the opportunity. Don't wait for somebody else. Just make it happen yourself, because some of the galleries are phenomenal and do a fantastic job representing the artist, and others don't do very much at all, and then the artist has to hand over 50%, and everything is geared towards the gatekeeper in terms of the control and the power in the relationship. And it's just nice to have a bit more balance back with the creative, and you can use the two and blend the approach. It's not an either or option.
Right. Oh yeah, right. Completely. If you have time, I just have a few more questions for you. And so one, I know that we got connected through Scott Olford. Yeah, we were both in a program that he did. And then when we had that Zoom call, you made me aware of someone I had never heard of before, Holly McHugh. And I've in the final month of a program with her. So thank you for even making me aware of her. Holly's great. She's from Australia. She's like a sales and messaging coach. And so both of us have pursued coaches and mentors and programs. And so what role has that played in your development? And besides that, did you rely on, did you use books, workshops, coaches? Just curious about that professional development.
You know what, Bob? All of the above. The amount of time and money I've invested in learning is phenomenal. In the early days with my business, and I think a lot of people do this, you think, I'm going to hold on to my money and I'm going to learn it all myself, and I'll watch YouTube videos and I'll do it for free, and I'll piece together these bits of information and I'll figure it out. And yes, absolutely, you can get so far without a doubt. But I realized it was starting to hold me back. And there are people out there who knew about evergreen sales funnels, who knew about search engine optimization and different things that they specialized in. And there's no way I could achieve the results and the knowledge that they had developed over 10 years by piecing together free content. So I started to invest in coaches and mentors. And that, to be honest, is when the business really took off, pulling in advice and expertise from other people that were further ahead than me and knew more than I did. And I think it's recognizing your strengths, but also your weaknesses.
And it all depends on where you are, of course, financially and in your life. There was there's a time earlier in my life I had no choice. I didn't have the money to invest. So I definitely relied on books and free resources, and you just soak it all up, because there are ways to get mentorship without the person even knowing it. Again, through books, interviews. There's tons of podcasts and YouTube interviews with people that you admire that you can tap into. When the funds are available, don't hesitate to make that investment in yourself, And
you're absolutely right. And there are some phenomenal books out there and phenomenal tutorials. I suppose it's just finding the ones that are right for you and that are high quality, because especially in the online world, there are some amazing coaches and mentors and some superb advice out there. And there are also some absolutely dreadful ones from people who are, effectively charlatans. So it's separating out, the truth and things that align with you from things that don't.
Yeah. Well, like you said earlier, there's some people are going to resonate with you and others won't, and you're fine with that. So you have to find your mentors too. You're not the mentor that worked for you may not work for me. Do your due diligence, before you just spontaneously invest a lot of money in something. Sure. But,
absolutely. I think go so far, like you said, get to a certain level, commit to yourself, show that you've got that tenacity and that interest and that commitment. But then when you do hit a certain threshold, and usually, as you said, when, you've got a little bit of spare income, it's great to help get people to help you along.
Here's two questions that I seem to be asking my guests. And so I'm going to pose them to you too. Question number one is, what are the best parts of what you do? Like, what do you feel the most grateful for, the kind of lifestyle that you have because of this art business?
Oh, that's a brilliant question. There are two parts because there are two sides of the business. On the courses side, I love seeing artists come in feeling a little bit doubtful or unsure and not knowing how to proceed with things. And I see huge potential in them and their artwork. and then seeing their success when things start to fall in place and they win awards or they have sellout shows or they suddenly realize sales are coming in whilst they're sleeping and they wake up and it's all working. That excitement when the penny drops and things start to work for them is, I don't think that'll ever get old. And it's almost like it's my things that have been selling. I'm that excited for them. So I love seeing that and how it transforms their lives. And then on the art side of the business, I don't ever think I'll get tired of hearing that ping on my phone to say I've had another sale of artwork and where it's going across the world. And just knowing that there are pieces in houses in the US, in Australia, across Europe that I've created is kind of mind blowing. And those two things will never, ever get old.
Your art is actually adorning the walls, and somebody will pass it and see it every day. And, it's just in a prominent place in their home. But every now and then I'll go over to a friend's house who bought a piece of art, and I'll see my painting up there. They go, "Oh yeah, I forgot that I do that," and they see it every day.
It brings them lots of joy as well. So just knowing that you are lifting up somebody's day is, it's a great thing.
And what you said about improving your students' lives, that seems to be the thing that drives a lot of people, certainly me with my YouTube channel, and even my books too. Whenever I get that feedback that, "Oh my God, you changed my life," or I was really in a dark spot and I listened to your affirmations every day for 3 months or whatever and climbed out of that hole. It's just like, this gives me a sense of purpose and meaning to my life, and so it just fuels me to do it more. I always thought that there's these two twin things, that you're living the ideal life when you can, and they both have the word make. One is make a difference in people's lives, and the more people you can impact, the better. And then if you can make money doing it in an authentic and honorable way, it doesn't get any better than that.
It doesn't. And I think, if certainly in my experience, it held me back for so long thinking it wasn't possible. And I was really not unhappy, but I had all the kind of material trimmings with my other businesses. But that deep down kind of yearning to make art wasn't fulfilled. And so I was squashing down a part of myself that was really important. And so when I finally made that work and committed and kind of showed a little bit of courage really to step into that, and it worked tremendously, then I think being able to share that with other people so they don't have to wait as long is important.
Yeah, absolutely. So my other question is a two-part question I like to ask every guest. So we've covered the bright, happy stuff. So what's the most challenging parts of what you do these days? Because it's not all unicorns and rainbows, right?
No,
So,
it isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't. It's there are a few things. When there's quite a lot of tech involved with the business, sometimes things can go wrong and break, and that just drives me insane. Because spending time figuring out tech-related problems is something that I just don't enjoy at all. I like figuring out business problems, but not tech problems. And I suppose the other side is, if ever somebody comes into a program that isn't a good fit, sometimes that can be a little challenging as well.
Like me, you juggle a lot of things. You got the art, and I know you have a team that helps you on the business, the coaching side of things, but you still have to be involved in that. Do you ever get kind of overwhelmed with all the things there are to do as an entrepreneur?
Oh, daily. Yeah, daily. Sometimes I kind of want to run away to a desert island and I think, I can't do this. And I have a bit of an escape plan. But then, a few hours away or a couple of days away, and I'm desperate to get back to the computer and to the studio and see what everybody's up to and feel inspired by that. So I think when I feel like that, I know it's just that I need a little bit of a rest. But yeah, it's trying to now choose the things that are important rather than saying yes to everything.
Having the awareness of where you are physically, psychologically, and making self-care a priority when it's needed certainly is important. Because we paint these pictures of all the bliss that you have but I think we also need to let people know when you pursue this path, there's going to be, no matter what path you take, there's going to be frustrations. There are going to be times when you're not super excited, but the overall positive outweighs those. It makes well worth the struggles that you have to go through, I believe.
It really does. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't go back to being employed now. I'm completely unemployable. But yeah, the trials, the tribulations, the problems that you face are all just little tests along the way. And, there are moments, there have been so many moments where I've wanted to give up because something I've tried hasn't worked, or I'm exhausted or frustrated. It's just par for the course. Business is full of challenges, it's full of road bumps, but the rewards are freedom and, creative freedom and financial freedom, but also, just getting to choose your day and be your own boss is invaluable.
Anything new and exciting coming up for you that we should be aware of?
Well, we're currently building our own home, so that's definitely new and exciting. And I have a show coming up in Munich. A solo show has just happened. And just really wanting to get a bit more time into the studio to create some different product ranges, because I'm really leaning towards interior ranges at the minute as well. So I've got some ideas buzzing around there.
I'm so glad to hear that you have continued to do your art, because I think a lot of people that get into the teaching mode, like it overcomes all their time and effort, and they get away from the original thing that brought them there to mentor people. But you have put in place systems. You have a team. You probably have figured out what to deliver so that it doesn't overwhelm you to your members. But then you still you have a studio. You still make time to do that thing that got you here in the first place, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the business side of things grew really quickly. And like I said, so I had to systemize a lot of the sales and marketing so that it happened when I was in the studio. And then once I had that in place, bringing team members in, that were better than me at certain aspects, so I could hand over responsibility and create that space to be able to work in the studio. And I think if I'm practicing what I preach, then that feels much more authentic to me to then be able to say to the students, look, I'm trying this is working, or actually that took too much time. But if I didn't have time in the studio, I can always tell, because I get really grumpy. Yeah.
It's part of your DNA. Amanda, where can people find you online? What are the best places to send them?
Okay, so on Instagram, it's at Amanda Heath Art. You can also see my own art at the same website address, amandaheathart.com. And if you're interested in the business side of things, the courses, the workshops, or ebooks, then if you visit ta-bs.com, so that stands for Thriving Artists-Business School.com, you can see loads of free resources and things on there.
Well, I really enjoyed this. Before I say goodbye to you, I'm just going to let our viewers, our listeners know that wherever you're consuming this, YouTube, on my podcast, there's a number of podcasts where I'm going to be also repurposing this. But make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel or to the podcast, or follow it on Spotify or whatever the wording is on the platform that you're on, because that only makes sure that you get access to future interviews. It tells that platform that this is of value, and it will help spread it to more and more people. So please subscribe, share, like, comment if you can. We'd love to know what your thoughts about this conversation with Amanda. And once again, Amanda, thank you so much for your time. This is so inspiring, and we're kindred spirits, so we will for sure be in touch for...
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you. You've been a massive inspiration to me and a huge inspiration to other people as well. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. All right, everyone, so long for now.